Whether it's roses, tomatoes, or some type of plant or bush growing in your garden, keeping them in tip-top shape can often be a real hassle.
True, but that's why we at the Georgia Farm Monitor sought out the advice of Georgia gardening expert Walter Reeves. Recently, he gave us some tips on growing those massive tomatoes, but this time around, Walter's talking azaleas.
You know, if you have an azalea, many times you're thinking, do I need to prune this thing or not? And there are a lot of reasons to prune an azalea. Maybe it's too big, maybe it's not very thrifty and not growing very healthily, but the timing of pruning an azalea is important. Generally speaking, you prune an azalea after the first bloom in the spring up until around the first or second week in June. This is an azalea that needs pruning, and I can tell a couple of things already. One is it has a dead limb, and of course that needs to come out. I can even see why the dead limb is dead, and it's because look down here at this crotch. You see the damage that was done right there when the limb got maybe broken by a big limb that came down. Maybe it was an ice storm or something like that. But nonetheless, this limb is dead. First thing to take out when you're pruning an azalea is the dead wood. Now I see this limb right here still has some buds on it, but frankly, it's going to die in a couple of years anyway because of that damage I just showed you. I'm going to go ahead and take it off. There. There's some more dead wood down here. Let's take it. Now I'm seeing that this azalea is too big for its spot. What I really want to have is an azalea that's up to about my chest. And so I look around in this plant for tall sprouts that are sticking up a little bit too high, and I look for a place that I can make my cut just above some other vigorous growth. So with this tall one right here, let's go right here, take it off. Oh yeah, and this big tall one right there, it needs to come off too, and I can see it has a growing point just below it. Notice that I'm doing all this by hand. You know why? Because if you use a machine, a hedge trimmer or something like that, you just get this solid red or pink meatball in your landscape, but that's not what you want. That's not how an azalea looks in nature. And so I'm doing my hand pruning using either loppers like I have here, or my nice handy hand pruners that I can take out individual limbs. Again, every cut that I make is just above where some vigorous new growth has already started, and I know it'll continue. So basically that's it. The tips on pruning azalea involve timing. Timing should be after they bloom and maybe into the first week or so in June. There are some ever-blooming azaleas, you probably know about these, that rebloom a couple of times. Still for them, the time to prune, 1st of April, let it get enough buds to rebloom if it's going to in the fall. Also, use hand pruners. And secondly, don't be afraid to prune. If it's a healthy azalea, it's going to recover from your pruning, and it'll be a lot prettier as a result. And you can look forward to a lot more gardening tips on the Georgia Farm Monitor.